Well, hey, welcome back to episode 2 of The Parent Path, the parenting podcast designed for the parents of X Church and beyond, where we believe that faith is a journey and so is parenting. And so this podcast lives in the intersection of both of those. My name is Jesse, and I'm your host. I'm also a husband, a father, and a pastor. And I have a ton to go over with you today. I'm excited to dive into today's topic. And so we're just going to do exactly that. We're going to jump straight into it with a question. Have you said recently about your child's development or maybe a behavior that they've started to display? Have you said the phrase, "Oh, this is just a phase. This is just a phase"? That phrase, "it's just a phase," say that 5 times fast, reminds me often of maybe some of us that grew up a little bit edgy in high school, listening to, maybe some of the punk music, and our parents saying, "Oh, it's just a phase. They'll grow out of it." It's kind of funny that now as parents, we're saying the same thing about our kids, because the truth is, as our kids grow up, they go through a ton of different phases. And 2 authors, Reggie Joiner and Kristen Ivy, have developed I would call it an umbrella of content around this idea of the phases that our children go through. There's a couple of different books based on it. There's some studies based on it. There's a lot of just different parenting content that has been put out around this idea of phases. If maybe over the last couple of months you've paid attention to the parent resource wall, if you are a part of the X Church community, you've noticed we had the phase guides up during season 3 of last year, 2024, where it breaks down all the different phases that our children go through. So today, I'm going to break down what exactly a phase is and then give us all an overview of what the phases of development are that our children go through. And actually, this is going to be the start of a 3-part series we're going to do on the parent path focused on the phases our children go through. And I'll break that down for us in just a second. But to begin, I want to just define, or I'm going to give you rather, the definition that Reggie and Kristen give for what a phase is. They say that it is a time frame in a kid's life when you can leverage distinctive opportunities to influence their future. I'll say that one more time. A phase is a time frame in a kid's life when you can leverage distinctive opportunities to influence their future. And so as they grow up, from the moment they are born until they turn 18, they graduate high school, they fly out of the nest, they are going through different phases. And what is happening in their mind and in their body and in their souls during this time is really important information for us as parents to understand. Why? Well, it gives us a window into what is happening in their mind, what questions are swirling around there, what changes they're going through. And when we understand these things as parents, we better know how to love and lead our children. And so, understanding the phases they go through really makes our job as parents maybe just that much easier when we have a better understanding of what the changes they're going through are. And so over the next 3 episodes of the Parent Path, we're going to break down this phases. So today, we're going to talk about just the overview of all of the phases. And I'm going to unpack at each phase, there is a question our children are asking that is kind of a core motive question that they are wrestling with at that phase. And then I'm going to give us the part that we can play to help them through the phase they are in. Next time, I'm going to break down the development that they're going through at each phase, the physical, social, mental, and emotional changes that are happening to them at every single phase. And then in part 3, that's 2 episodes from right now, we're going to talk about how to engage their faith during each one of those phases. So I'm excited to jump into it. So in the first phase chunk, we'll call this the baby to preschool phase. That is newborn to 4 years old. Our children in this phase chunk, which is made up of 3 different phases I'll get to in a moment, they think like an artist. Everything to them is a little bit abstract. Everything is not as concrete as it is to us because, again, they are learning everything for the very first time. Parents in this phase, the baby to preschool phase, we have the primary role of embracing their physical needs. This is the phase of their life that requires the most of us physically because, again, they are not doing anything on their own. They are not eating, they are not sleeping, they are not bathing, they are not getting dressed, they are not getting anywhere without our help. And so our primary role in this phase is to embrace their physical needs. Now, let's get a little bit more specific. The first phase, the new baby phase, when they are younger than a year old. This is the phase when nobody sleeps, everybody smells, and one mesmerizing baby convinces you, I need you now. And the question that they are motivated by at this phase, which sounds kind of funny because they're a newborn, are they capable of having conscious thought? Well, no, not in this regard. They're not asking this question literally, but it is a core foundation of what is happening in them at this phase. And that question is, am I safe? Am I safe? If you were to try to put yourself in the shoes of a newborn, they don't know when their next meal is coming. They don't know what is happening when they go to a new environment. They don't know anything. And so they are motivated primarily by this feeling of safety. And so our job as parents are as follows. You help them learn when we engage their senses. We help them develop when we engage their senses. And so when we play with them, when we tickle them, when we introduce them to new sights and sounds, we're helping them learn. We capture their heart by establishing trust, showing to them over time that you are going to be the one that shows up when they need something. And you coach their moral abilities when you consistently meet their physical needs. Again, we are laying the groundwork for what we want to see happen later on in their life. So then they get a little bit older. The 1 to 2 year old phase is the phase where nobody's on time, everything is a mess, and one eager toddler will insist, I can do it. And if you've had a child at this age, you know they are just convinced they can put their shoes on by themselves, they can get dressed by themselves, even though maybe they can't all the time, which is actually kind of a clue into the question that is motivating them at this phase. It's the question, am I able? This is the age where they are trying to figure out, can I do things on my own? Can I put my shoes on by myself? Can I get dressed on my own? And our role as parents in this phase of their life is to help them understand, yes, they are able. And my little 2 cents for us here is sometimes we can maybe unintentionally answer this question, the question, am I able, with a no, without meaning to. We can maybe unintentionally communicate to our kids we don't think they're able when we don't allow them to struggle, when we don't allow them to sit there and put their left shoe on their right foot and try to figure it out and try to squeeze their little toes inside there. When we jump in to help them and fix it immediately, we may unintentionally tell them that they're not able to do things without our help. So let's let our kids struggle and figure things out on their own, to an extent. Of course. Parents, we help them learn when we engage their senses. Again, they are still very sense-heavy at this age. We capture their heart by developing their confidence, by helping them, being with them through their struggles and showing them that on the other side of a challenging situation, even if that challenging situation is putting the correct shoe on the right foot, we are helping them develop their confidence. And you coach their moral abilities when you respond consistently. Again, consistency in these young ages is very, very important. And they get a little older. The 3 and 4 year old phase. This is the phase when anything can be imagined, everything can be a game, and one curious preschooler wants to know why. And again, if you've had a kid at this age, you know that why question can it can be fun to dance with because you're going to hear it 47,000 times a day. And the question that they're asking at this age is actually quite a deep question. It's the question, am I okay? Am I okay? Because at this age is really when discipline starts to become more of a habit for us as parents. When they get to 3 or 4 years old, we have a little bit higher expectation than we did a few years prior. And so all of a sudden, they're starting to get in trouble more often. And so they start asking this question, am I okay? Is there something wrong with me? Am I bad? Am I good? Am I okay? And so as parents, we help them learn by engaging their senses. Again, they're very hands-on at this age. So whenever we can engage their senses and teach them using their senses, we're going to help them learn. We capture their heart by cultivating their self-control. At this phase where they start to really wrestle with, am I okay? We can help capture their heart. We can instill a deeper sense of our love to them by helping them cultivate a sense of self-control. And we coach their moral abilities when we discipline consistently. When we discipline consistently, we help them grow in their moral abilities. Now, on to the next phase chunk, the elementary phase. That's kindergarten through 5th grade. The way they think is going to change from more of an artist to a scientist. They're going to be very learning and curiosity heavy at this phase. And so our primary role throughout all of these phases is to engage their interests. This phase, or this chunk of phases, is really fun because you really start to see their interests and their personality, and you can kind of see little glimpses of the future adult they're going to be start to come out at around this kindergarten age, which is super duper fun. And speaking of the kindergarten phase, kindergarten and 1st grade are lumped together, and this is the phase when unfiltered words make you laugh, the school bus makes you cry, and life becomes a stage where your kid shouts, "Look at me." And again, that gives us a clue to the question they're asking at this phase. And that question is, do I have your attention? Do I have your attention? Every kindergartner in 1st grade wants to know that somebody is paying attention to them, especially you, mom and dad. You help them learn when you give them concrete examples. Again, they are learning like scientists right now. So concrete examples help them learn. You capture their hearts when you help them improve their ability, when you help teach them a new skill. Again, learning new things is what they're all about at this phase. And you coach their moral ability when you play on their level. Play becomes very important, again, because they want to know they have your attention. And so when you get on their level, you play with them, you interact with them at their level, you're going to help build some greater moral abilities in them. Moving on to 2nd and 3rd grade. This is the phase when fairness matters most. Differences get noticed, and your enthusiastic kid thinks everything sounds like fun. And the question that they are asking at this phase is, do I have what it takes? They're becoming more aware of their own abilities and maybe the things that they can't do as well. Again, as I just said, this is where differences really start to get noticed. They're seeing how they differ from their peers. And so they start to ask the question, do I have what it takes? And you help them learn, again, still, when you give them concrete examples. We are still thinking like a scientist at this phase. You capture their heart when you encourage their efforts. Again, when they are in this phase of asking, do I have what it takes? When they're trying something new, when they're putting in their best effort, you can capture their heart when you encourage that effort. And you coach their moral abilities when you play on their level. Again, play is still an important role, even though in that 2nd, 3rd grade, maybe it starts to seem like they're a little too cool, or they're maybe starting to, you can almost see that like teenager starting to kind of peek out. They still want you to play with them on their level and be interested in their interests. And then the 4th and 5th grade, the final years of elementary, the phase where friends are best friends, games are for competition, and your confident kid will insist, I've got this. And the question they're asking at this phase is, do I have friends? The social dynamics around this phase really start to change, and they're seeing kind of where they measure up on the social ladder, so to speak. And so they really start to ask the question, do I have friends. And you help them learn at this phase when you give them a challenge. Again, they're still thinking like a scientist, and at this phase, they actually want a problem to try and solve. And so you can help them learn when you give them a challenge to try and overcome. You capture their heart when you help them develop friendships, when you can be the parent that can set up hey, we're going to have a gathering at our house and some friends can come over, and you're helping them develop those friendships, or you're helping them answer that question, do I have friends? You can capture their heart, and you coach their moral abilities when you invite others to join in. You coach their moral abilities when you invite others to join in. You show them how to be an includer of other people. That wraps up the elementary phase chunk. We'll move on into the middle school phase, everyone's favorite time of life, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. At this phase of their life, they're still kind of thinking in that science realm, but it shifts from more science where it's curiosity, figuring out answers to problems, and it shifts into thinking more like an engineer. In 6th grade, this is the phase where there's never enough groceries, there's too many hormones, and a dramatic kid needs someone to prove who cares. And the question they're asking at this phase is, who do I like? Which is really just a different way of asking the question, who likes me? Who wants to be around me? Because those are the people that I like to be around. You help them learn when you connect dots. Again, they want to see A, B, and C. They are thinking like engineers. You capture their heart when you provide stability. Because right now, this feels like the most shaky time in their life thus far. You remember the 6th grade days, the middle school times. So you can capture their heart when you provide stability, and you coach their moral abilities when you affirm their value. That is going to be a trend throughout all of the middle school phases. On to 7th grade. This is the phase where nothing you do as a parent is cool. What they feel right now matters most, and a suddenly social kid wants to know who's going to this thing that they are going to. And the question they're asking at 7th grade is a gigantic question. It's the question, who am I? And you might remember back to your middle school days it's around this phase that you really start to wonder, you as an adult, you as your future self, who do you want to be? Who am I? And so it's at this phase they begin to wrestle with that question. Again, you still help them learn by helping them connect the dots, seeing A to B to C. You capture their heart when you provide a sense of stability, and you coach their moral abilities when you affirm their value. Again, all throughout the middle school phase, our role right there is kind of the same. And then on to 8th grade, the phase when it's cool to have choices. It's not cool to answer questions. And then one smart kid will remind you, yeah, I know. That's about the phase this starts happening. And the question is similar to the 7th grade question. The question they're asking in 8th grade is, who do I want to be? Again, it's starting to gear towards the future. They're seeing themselves not as children anymore, but as future adults. So they start asking some bigger questions. And again, how we support them through this phase is the same as years past. You help them learn when you help them connect dots. You capture their heart when you provide stability, and you coach their moral abilities when you affirm their value. And when you affirm their value, it teaches them not to compromise their value for the future or for the approval of others in the future, which is why that's so important through the middle school phases. And then on to high school. They are thinking more like a philosopher at this phase. They're asking maybe some bigger, deeper, more abstract questions. And our role throughout all of the high school years is to mobilize their potential, to help them see the potential in themselves and help them move toward it. So in 9th grade, this is the phase when friendships shift, grades count, and interests change so often, your teenager has to explain, this is me now. This is when that stereotypical, it's just a phase, starts to come into kind of our vernacular as parents. And the question they're asking at this phase is the question, where do I belong? Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Again, friendships start to change. And this is really when we see cliques really start to develop that are going to last for several years. And so their question they're asking is, where do I belong? You help them learn when you ask questions. Again, this is the phase where they do not want to be told what to do. So you can help them learn when you ask them questions. You capture their heart when you value community, quality time. And you coach their moral abilities when you give choices. Again, they don't want to be told what to do. Give them some choices and let them see how each choice might play out. In 10th grade, this is the phrase when everybody else can, nobody else has to, and your resolute teen will push you to answer, why not? This is the phase where they really start to ask a whole lot of questions. And this is actually, I think, a good thing. I think some parents maybe get an idea. It's around 10th grade where their kid, they feel like suddenly becomes rebellious. And some of that is they're just starting to push back on everything they've been taught up until now. What they're actually doing is they're testing everything they have been told to believe up until this point. And I actually think this is a really, really valuable phase that they go through, because what they're learning is to not just accept everything they hear as truth. And in order to do that or to learn that skill, they have to question things maybe that they shouldn't question, or that we feel like they should just trust our opinion on this, but they're not going to at this phase, because also we didn't do that at this phase. And so the question that they are asking at this phase, at the core motive question in 10th grade that they're asking is the question, why should I believe? And again, this is actually a very important phase that maybe gets a bad rap from time to time. And so as parents, here's what we can do. We can help them learn, again, still by asking questions. They do not want to be told what to do. Ask them questions, help them think through things. You capture their heart when you clarify their values. Again, you help them understand and sort through all the questions or all the questioning or doubting they are doing right now through this phase. And then you coach their moral abilities when you catch them doing something good. You coach their moral abilities when you catch them doing something good, and you celebrate it. And then on to 11th grade, the phase where there's maybe a little bit less drama, but there's more stress, and your very busy teenager will answer all of your questions with, just trust me. Just trust me. This is where independence really becomes a big factor. This is about the time where your child will have a driver's license, their own car, and they really, really want some freedom, and they want to be treated like an adult. And they start asking some adult questions at about this phase. And the question they're asking in 11th grade is, how can I matter? In other words, how can I make a difference? Not sometime off in the future, not when I'm 30, not when I'm 40, not when I'm done with high school, not when I'm done with college, but right now. How can I matter? Again, all throughout the high school phase, you help them learn by asking questions, not giving instruction, by asking questions that will help them discover on their own the thing you are trying to communicate to them. You capture their heart when you refine their skills, when you help them grow in a skill that they're working on. And then you coach their moral abilities when you encourage them to use those abilities to serve other people. You coach their moral abilities when you encourage them to serve others. And then 12th grade, the final phase, the phase where your emerging adult pulls away and gets closer and does things for the last time, and you both start asking, what's next? And the question that they are asking that's motivating them in this final year of high school is the question, what will I do? What will I do? You help them learn, again, still by asking questions. You capture their heart when you help them create a vision for their life. You take maybe some of the skills that you've helped them develop in the year prior. You take some of the values that you've helped them clarify 2 years earlier, and you begin to morph that into helping them create a vision of a life that they will love to live. And you coach their moral abilities when you focus their options. Maybe you remember what it's like to be a senior, and the world is your oyster, and at the same time that's exciting and terrifying. And so you can coach their moral abilities when you help them focus their options. These phases that we've just covered help give us an overview of the major changes and the major maybe motive questions that are rolling around in the heads of our children as they grow up. And when we have a better understanding of all these things, maybe you've already started to see how you could love and lead your child better through all the changes that they are facing right now. So my encouragement to us is to remember it is just a phase, so don't miss it. It is just a phase, so don't miss the opportunity you have now to love and lead your child. And in this phase, let's not miss out on the opportunities we have to work together, parents and the church, to build a foundation of faith in the life of our child. And so if you listened to the last episode, you heard that we're going to wrap up each episode with a recap, or not a recap, a forward cap, if that is a thing, a rundown of what is coming up, or what we are teaching in the month of April for XKIDS. And of course, this month is Easter. And so as you can anticipate, that is going to be a major theme of what we're teaching over the next several weeks. In Explorers and Heroes, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Our series is called Happy Day, with the summary of, because Jesus rose from the dead, every day can be a happy day. We always have a reason to celebrate. And so, of course, some of the highlights we're going to cover over the coming weeks are Palm Sunday and Easter. And the bottom line for this next series, Happy Day, is Jesus is alive. And their memory verse is Revelation chapter 1, verse 18. I am alive forever and ever. And of course, you can find all of that and more, plus some conversation starters, in the Parent Resources tab of the X Church app. And so if you haven't checked that out yet, be sure to do that this month. And then for our legends, our elementary age kids, our series is called The Big Picture. When we learn the story of Easter, and we see that God can turn anything, even the worst of times, into something great, it gives us a new perspective. It helps us see the big picture. And of course, just like our Explorers and Heroes, we're going to be focusing on Palm Sunday and Easter over the next couple of weeks. The virtue that they will be learning is the virtue of hope, believing that something good can come out of something bad. Their memory verse, John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble, but be encouraged. I have won the battle over the world. And again, all of that can be found, plus some more, on the Parent Resource tab of the X Church app. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for liking and sharing. And thank you for investing in becoming a better parent. Because when we parent well today, the world becomes a better place tomorrow. We'll be back for part 2 of this phase conversation next month. I'll see you then.